Welcome! Welcome to my video on drilling polymer clay beads. Now this is in response to the Handmade Component Bazaar, which was a fabulous show on Facebook. But it's kind of a long time coming because a lot of people have asked me, how do I drill the hole? Well, first of all, let me just say that you can always drill a hole in a polymer piece before it's baked, but the reason that I don't is because I would like to have that decision available to me after baking, because that's when I'm going to design with the pieces. And when you're drilling a hole through a bead, especially if it's a bead with any kind of a shape, the chances are that you might distort that shape. So once it's baked, you're not going to distort the bead. And, you know, there's several different methods and several different tools. And let me just go briefly over these tools. They're basically a chuck with a drill bit in them. A lot of times they'll have a screw on, or I don't know, it's a rotating thing on this side. And that's so that you can move the tool and it won't move your hand. See, if I were to do this and move the tool, I would be drilling into the side of my hand. Now, this is a salt and pepper drill. It's got a thin one and a thick one. It's actually a pottery tool. I use it all the time, but I mostly use it for marking little holes and then going back with another drill and actually drilling through. These three things are the same versions of these. And what's really cool is they come with these little storage units so that you can keep, well, there things inside there. Like, looks like there's something inside there. What is it? It's either a drill bit or a chuck that's inside of there. And I don't know why it's not coming out, but trust me, you can store stuff in there. This one here, not only can you store things, oh, there's the chuck. And this is how you make different sizes of the chucks. See, because they're made to hold the drill bit, but not all drill bits are the same diameter. So all of these things are going to wind and unwind, you know, tighten and loosen so that they can hold the drill bit, so that they can hide components, and so that they can spin while they're in your hand. This one actually won't spin. This one won't spin. This one will spin, see? And that's just a little more comfortable. So these are all drill tools that I have. And I also have this drill tool for making holes, punching holes in metal clay. And they also do make a tweezer or a prong type of hole puncher for metal clay. I do not use this on polymer clay because the polymer will split and crack if I try to push through it with a hole. So drilling the hole is the best way in polymer. So let's get started here with something really, really straightforward. If I wanted to make earrings like this, it's a very simple hole drilled from front to back. So let me just focus a little bit on these in particular. What I like to do is take each piece and start the hole. Now, you can't get too close to the edge, otherwise you're going to run the risk of the polymer not being strong enough. However, the farther down you drill in your piece, then the larger jump ring you need to hold it. So that's another consideration. If the component is thick enough, you can drill from side to side. That's okay. So why don't I just go ahead and do that? I also want to mention that if I wanted the earrings to hang in this direction, I'd be drilling the holes up here. So, you know, half of this is a design decision. So that's why I don't commit until the very end. So what I'm going to do right here is just simply drill that hole. Now it kind of pushes out on this side as I drill through, and I'll go back in and make that hole a little bit smoother on the other end, and there I have my hole. So I'll do that one more time. Now it may be hard to control this, but that's the job that you have to do. And a lot of times I will look sideways to see that I am going straight, and then I'll look this way to see that I'm going straight from front to back. And just because this is a very thin piece, I'll notice from my finger when it goes through. So that didn't hurt, you know, because I'm not continuing to drill through my finger. Now if I was using a drill bit, or a drill press, excuse me, which I'll also show you how to use, that is another thing altogether. But here I have two drill holes up here drilled sideways, and then these are ready to wrap with wire, and that's that. Now these ones here, they have some form to them. So I do not want to drill them side to side because the wire or the cord would go through and you'd see it. So this one's really super easy. I'll just begin this and drill straight through. And I've decided already that my orientation is the top is the light part, and it gets darker down to the bottom. So I'll just do that. Now this is real easy on a drill bit, but you want to make sure that you at least start your hole with an independent drill, because sometimes the drill bits can jump. And you also want to make sure that it's the same distance from the top each and every time, so that your earrings will hang the same way. Okay, here I have a tough decision. This is almost too small to drill in sideways, and it will be stronger if I drill it this way. Now, because I've got my orientation drilled this way this time, maybe I would like to do something different. I always like to do something different. So I'm going to drill this way, and just for variety. Now, this is tile. A lot of times when you're drilling, it behooves you to drill on something that you can drill into. This is a rubber mat. I use it for a lot of hammering, a lot of metalworking, and I can actually just drill right through it. I don't have to hold the pieces. See, just like this. And who cares if that goes into that rubber mat? That's what it's there for. And then I can clean these up. And that's a very tiny hole. If I need to come back with a bigger drill bit, because let's say I don't necessarily want that tiny, tiny hole, I can go back with a bigger drill bit. But I have to gauge which one of these, you know, I have to gauge how strong the piece will be after I drill it, and how big I want my hole, and how far from the top I want my hole. So I understand that it's easy if the holes are already drilled, but the secret in truly designing is that you get to control the orientation of your work. So here I have these different pieces that are drilled different ways. Right, there we go, ta-da. So there are three different pair of earrings, and they're really drilled a little bit differently for each individual use. Something like this, like, wow, that's a no-brainer, but you know what? When you're drilling things, make sure you have them right side up. And sometimes you might find that you'll have items that are thick and thin in different places, you really want to take a look at the vulnerability of your components to make it so that it's very forgiving to the clay, and that you're not stressing the clay out in getting the hole too close to the edge or getting it through a thin piece. And this is a little more challenging because it has texture. So my hole might not be exactly on a flush spot. I'm going to choose right there. And see, even if I had a drill press at my disposal, I could go ahead and mark this so that it wasn't so jumpy when I get over to the drill press, because if I really tried to drill that with the drill press, it's going to move because of all this texture. So another little trick that I like to do when I'm drilling components like this to make sure that they hang really easy and that they hang in the same distance is I'll put the two pieces together like this and then drill. See, and that way I don't have to measure. I'm not a measurer. I have a lot of visual balance just naturally, and I think that's particular to each and every person. So my visual balance might not be the same as yours. And actually, in some cases, people want things off-centered. And that is really a cool reason to buy components and then put your own holes in them. Now, the weight is also going to determine how these hang. See? Because it might not hang exactly level depending on how your handmade components are weighted. So that's another thing to take into consideration. That's why I'm non-committal. So let's go to one that's like a no-brainer. These types of beads, yes, you could drill from side to side, but this type of thing is really a no-brainer, and it's fairly easy. And again, this would be something that it would be really easy to do on the drill press. Now, oh, it actually unscrewed here. Let's do this back up. And there's one other thing that I do quite frequently. I do not drill all the way through, because what if I wasn't paying attention, especially if it's a round bead and it's just kind of slightly off to the side? Well, then I would have a crooked bead. So a lot of times I will go in on both sides and meet in the middle. And you're kind of saying, oh, yeah, what are the chances that you're going to meet in the middle? Well, with enough practice, you meet in the middle. And if you just hold, see, now this is a little bit slanted. So I can actually press the drill to one or another side, and then I'll end up spinning the bead to make sure that that hole is wide and level. So that's this. I'll save this one to use on the drill press. How's that? Okay. Another thing about drilling pendants. Well, a pendant like this, I could put a bail on it, like a pinch bail, and I could start my little hole just so that that pinch bail had enough to grab. That's another thing. But if I just want one hole here, I'm going to gauge how close to the edge to make this hole. Now there's something very particular about this, and I'll show you what it is. This piece has been colored, it's been dyed. So really there's white inside, you know, and it may show up a little bit, but you can take, you know, a magic marker or something of that nature and just color that in if the white shows. Now again, I'm going to go, see how it kind of pushes out the backside? I'm going to go in on the backside and drill the hole a little bit wider. And then there's going to be a jump ring in there or some other kind of a bind. So I'm not too worried about coloring this particular piece. What is happening here is there's a coating of liquid Sculpey on the top. So that coating of liquid Sculpey is just a little more flexible than not having the coating on there. And so that's something that's particular to ultralight that doesn't necessarily happen, ultralight in liquid Sculpey, that doesn't necessarily happen with regular polymer clay. So that's about that. Now, in a piece like this, sure, I could have one hole up here, but, well, the first thing I have to make sure is that I'm drilling in the orientation of the way the work is written. And if you have used Chinese characters before, there's usually, or Asian characters, most Asian characters, there's an orientation. And the orientation usually is that the legs are pointing downwards. So let me see if I can figure out this orientation here. You know, sometimes you can just look at it and it looks upside down. I think the orientation is right side up facing me. So I'll turn this around. I am going to do 2 holes because I've decided that I'm going to hang this in 2 different places. So there again, that's a good idea that I didn't, you know, actually drill the holes, and you want to make sure that they're fairly level on your, so that your piece hangs level. They're not equidistant from the edge, but it's level. Okay. So I hope you can see this. And again, it's white inside because that is ultralight. And if the white bothers me, I could go in there with a marker or something of that nature. But really, since there's going to be a jump ring in there, I don't have to do anything. Now, I also could put little tiny eyelets inside of here. And short of bringing my entire studio, I don't have the eyelets with me right now, but that would be a nice finish for this type of work as well. Okay, moving on here. Now, this bead I've been requested to drill from top to bottom. Well, there is enough room for me to start the hole, but I have to make sure that my bit will actually go in. It won't go all the way through. So this is definitely one that I need to meet in the middle. And actually, I prefer to start it and then finish it on the drill press. Because otherwise I'd be sitting here with the drill and drilling all day. And, you know, the drill press is really, really fast. But again, this going in from both sides helps me to drill all the way through. And I look when I'm drilling, and I can adjust my drill a little bit so that it's drilling straight. And see all this clay that's coming out of the core? That's perfect. Because if you were trying to do this bead make the hole in it while it was still unbaked, then chances are that it would be a little bit different shaped, because you would be sort of parting the Red Sea as you put your drill bit in there. So once I've got this in straight, I'm going to go ahead and use the drill press on it. But at least I know my hole is centered on each end. So let me finish up with the drill press. Okay, side to side. A lot of times, instead of drilling something end to end, I will drill side to side and hang the bead like a trapeze. This one here, it's too tapered at the bottom to drill from side to side, but I made it thicker at the top. I like to do that with my beads. It creates some dimension in the form there. So I am going to mark where I would put the hole, and I will drill across it at the top here. I hope that's what she asked me to do. And in this case, I need to measure, which I'm going to eye it because I've eyed it like 10 million times already. I also can go like this. and right in on the side. So just starting that is really going to help. Now, it's still fairly thin, so this would be one where I really have to watch as I drill through. And if I use a hand drill and I keep my fingers on the back, I actually can feel where that drill is going. And so I'll go back and forth and just make sure that I'm drilling this. And I look at it sideways and front ways and all kinds of ways as I'm drilling it. Now, if you're thinking, oh, I don't want to do all this work, well, that's part of making components and doing the work to put them together. Really, that is reflected a lot of times in the price. You know, if I put something online and it's not drilled or sanded or polished, it's because I've adjusted the price accordingly. It would cost me a lot more time and money to go ahead and finish those things. So that's why they're a good deal. I know what you're all thinking, it's not going to connect in the middle, but it will. Even if it doesn't connect in the middle, I can keep going in, and if I have any anything moving front or back, I can adjust that and it will be in the middle of the bead. Have you ever seen a glass bead or a pearl bead or a stone bead that was drilled? See, there it goes. Drilled from either end. Well, that's the same thing I'm doing here. I don't always meet exactly, but you can get the hole through. This is pretty good. Now, it looks to me that I got one higher than the other, but because the hole is, I can level that out, see? And then it will be okay. It's always best to start with a smaller bit and progress to a bigger bit. But, sometimes you need the longer bits to get all the way through. And then, again, I'll just core that out so that it's nice and smooth. I should mention that polymer clay is relatively soft. It's, it's not like stone. So if I were going to use tiger wire on this to string my components, I probably would want to put some kind of a eyelet or a bead cap in there just so that the holes would stand up for wear. Because otherwise, tiger wire over a period of time can cut right through some of these small pieces. I'm not talking about stationary wire like this. I'm talking about tiger wire where the beads slip and move back and forth, and that jewelry stringing wire. Now, here's another thing I want you to take into consideration. I could have put this hole right at the top, but the reason that I made this pair with that hole down there, it's because it's part of the design feature. I really wanted my wires to show up. See? So this is kind of one of my favorite little attachments here. But that was definitely strategically placed so that it's part of the design. Okay, let's keep moving on. Now, sometimes I don't always make the beads flush at the side. You see how this bead is nice and flush at the side and it actually can be drilled through? This one was made as a cabochon, and I wasn't going to drill it at first, but since everybody likes drilling, I think I will. I literally have to drill it in this spot because it's the only thick spot I can get it through. See? This keeps coming undone. And I think I'm going to go to my drill press with this one as well. And let me just see here how that's going to lay down. Okay. But I will start these little holes, and then I will meet in the middle with my drill press. And obviously this one is not gonna, there's a balance there, it's not gonna lay level until I put the string in. So I really wanna shoot for the hole on the other side. So I'm watching as I drill that I shoot for that particular hole. Okay, let's set this one aside. Now, she wanted this one drilled from top to bottom, but here's the deal. It's going to spin if I drill it from top to bottom. And I don't know about you, but I don't necessarily want my pieces to spin. Let me show you another example of spinning pieces. This one here, it spins. Now, because this is pretty heavy copper wire, I've got it in there so that it's not going to spin real hard. But what happens is you'll get one piece like this. I mean, maybe you'd like that, which makes it interesting, but that's not intentional. I call these pieces bones, and that's how I assemble them. This is another example of drilling holes so that it fits the design. Now, this is more challenging because you have to line everything up, but it's actually a wonderful design application.